Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. Those who have been here before, I feel like this is the new spot to do any booky videos because since I reorganised my bookshelf, yeah, and also all the Tesco Ritson books that I ordered are all here now, so I'll be reading them from beginning to end soon. And I know there's another one which I need to order, which is I think one of the newest one, I don't know. So today's book is a book that so many people read at school, but it wasn't on my syllabus. So I've gone through life without having read this book, or anything by this author to be honest, which for a booky person is kind of unbelievable. But I do follow a few booktubers who this is their favourite book, and I saw a video recently where one of the YouTubers commented on how short this book actually is, and it was just like, oh, I didn't realise how short the book actually is. It's Animal Farm by George Orwell. I read this on BorrowBox, which is an app which connects to libraries across the UK. It was Penguin Book of the British Short Story, and it's 144 pages. When I read it on my iPad, it was only about 60 pages actually, because obviously it's a large screen and small-ish print. The blurb isn't really a blurb, it just says Animal Farm, George Orwell. His simple and tragic fable telling of what happens when the animals drive out Mr. Jones and attempt to run the farm themselves has since become a world-famous classic of English prose. Yeah, it's in comedy, satire and political fiction, and I'll admit, I loved it. How I've gone through my 34 years of existence without ever reading this book, I don't know, but the book that I read on my syllabus when I was at school was Lord of the Flies. And to be honest, having now read this, I think it's quite interesting comparison between Animal Farm and Lord of the Flies. Just, in this case it's animals, but in Lord of the Flies it's people, and how their attempts to create a hierarchy goes completely wrong. They're very, very different stories, but they do have similar themes at the heart of them. Where to start with this book? I feel like it's a classic for a reason in the fact that it's always going to be relevant. It's about attempts to power and how it just all goes horribly wrong. It was originally written about the Russian Revolution of 1917, and when I have googled and Wikipedia'd this book, I find it interesting, hilarious, terrifying that when the movie rights were sold, they were sold accidentally to undercover CIA agents who were trying to take out communism. I'll admit, I don't completely understand why the CIA wanted it so much. To be fair, actually, at the time, it probably would have been a really big deal. It was originally called Animal Farm, A Fairy Story, and that was the very first edition of it, and now most titles drop the A Fairy Story bit and it just Animal Farm. As I said, it's quite a short story, but a lot happens, and it spans years, does the book. You start off with the animals on a farm called Manor Farm, and it is run by a farmer called Mr. Jones. And one night, a boar called Old Major holds kind of a meeting where he says that he wants to overthrow the humans completely, and he teaches the animals a song called The Beasts of England. And yeah, when Old Major dies of old age, there's two pigs called Snowball and Napoleon who take Old Major's word as gospel, and they overthrow the humans and become an independent farm run completely by the animals. And then as the years go on, you get the pigs just becoming more and more worse and more hungry for power. Originally they have written on the end of one of the farm walls like their own 7 commandments. The most important is all animals are equal, but then as the book goes on, 3 of those rules end up being added to, and because it spans so long, a lot of the animals don't realise that they weren't always like that. They feel like they've just forgotten 2 words at the end of these commandments, but the pigs are just so hungry for power. And, you know, where originally one of the commandments was no animal shall drink alcohol, once the pigs get a taste of whiskey, 2 words are added to the end of that, and it's to excess. So no animal shall drink alcohol to excess, when one of the pigs gets hungover and thinks he's dying. It's a funny book, but it's also terrifying, and the way it ends just shows you just how terrifying it is, because by the end of the book, because the pigs have gone on such determination of this power and greed, when some of the animals look inside the house where the pigs are now, inside the farmhouse where the pigs are essentially now living, and they realise that the pigs and the humans kind of look alike. And knowing that there were 2 films about this, there might be more than that, just the main films that I'm aware of are the 50s cartoon, is it 50s or 60s cartoon, and then there was a live action one made in the 90s, and neither of them have the original ending. Well, technically they do, but that's not where they end it. The cartoon was made and was funded by the CIA. Basically, I don't think they were very happy about the fact that it was based on the Russian Revolution, and so they changed the ending. If you look at the information about the films on the book's Wikipedia page, it says Animal Farm 1954, so it was the 50s, animated film in which Napoleon is eventually overthrown in the Second Revolution. In 1974, a man called E. Howard Hunt revealed he had been sent by the CIA's Psychological Warfare Department to obtain the film rights from Orwell's widow, and the resulting 1954 animation was funded by the agency. I just find that completely bonkers. When you go into the actual film Wikipedia page, it says the film rights for the film adaptation of Animal Farm were bought from Orwell's widow after she was approached by agents working for the Office of Policy Coordination, the OPC, a branch of the CIA that dealt with the use of culture to combat communism. There's also another thing underneath that says that one person, Maurice, provided the voice for all the animals in the film, and then another actor provided the voice for all the humans. So it's just 2 voice actors throughout the whole film, and I just think that's crazy and impressive. Yeah, because I think the end of the cartoon, rather than ending it where the book does, which is where they look on and realise that the pigs and the humans have kind of become interchangeable, they end it with a very definitive ending of saying, yeah, this might have happened, but then they were overthrown. It feels stupid to kind of hold back on spoilers, considering it's such an old book, and even though it took me 34 years to read this book. Yeah, I just found it so good and so powerful. I understand why this is so many people's favourite book, because it's got the entertainment there, it's terrifying. The fact that the cartoon is now a U, it's like a Universal or PG or something, and I'm just like, if the cartoon movie is as faithful to the book as I think it should be, it should not be suitable for children. Because the book is disturbing as you see the pigs rise to power. And though originally, because there's comments from because the sheep in the book are very much sheep in both the literal and the figurative sense. The idea that if you follow along with the herd, you're a sheep, and is that where this came from? Or does that phrase go back even further? They basically just repeat the same thing throughout the book, which is 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. It's something like that. And then towards the end of the book, when the sheep are just keep continuing to follow the pigs and their power, that changes to 4 legs good, 2 legs better. But the point is that from the beginning of the book, it's the idea that they don't want to be like the humans. They don't want to be like the humans. They want to do everything independently. And originally, it's an idea put in their heads by Old Major. So after Old Major, Snowball and Napoleon become leaders of the group. And Snowball becomes the official leader for quite a while. And then Napoleon is the true villain of the story. Throughout the book it's implied that the humans are, but it's actually Napoleon and the pigs, and then the dogs are their bouncers almost. The way it's told and the way it's written is really clever, because as a reader you understand what's going on, especially if you understand politics. If I'd read this as a teenager, I don't think I would have appreciated it as much as I do now, because when I was a teenager I was young and I didn't understand politics. I'm not going to say I didn't do politics, I just didn't understand it. And now I'm in my mid-30s. Well, I'm 34, so yeah, practically mid-30s. And it was only when I was in like my mid-20s that I really had proper conversations with my dad about politics and the world. And with my dad being a retired civil servant, I managed to get a lot of insider information from him, I'll say that. And yeah, so when I want to have a political conversation, I go to my dad. So yeah, if I had read this prior to me starting those conversations with my dad about politics and the news and all that, I don't think I would have really understood what I was reading. It still would have been a brilliant book, I just don't think I would have understood a lot of the details of it. But now I can read this as an adult, understanding politics a bit more. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, because there's no way I'm an expert on politics. I just know what I have learnt through the media and from my dad and my own independent thought. And yeah, it's such a powerful book about revolution, power and greed, and what that does to people, or in this case animals, and how easy it is to be a sheep. How easy it is to believe the lies you are being told. And not to get too political about a book that is essentially about politics, but we saw it all with Trump and Boris Johnson and Brexit. The lies you believe until there's nothing left for them to give you. And then you're just like, oh, in this case, the animals don't know any better. So when they've been fed the numbers by the pigs and saying this is the most food we've ever had and all this, and it's because it's been years since it all happened, they just go, well, I can't remember, but if they're telling me it's better now, it must be better. And so, yeah, it's just so interesting to read this in 2023 about a book that was written in 1945 and realise that nothing has changed. 1945 isn't really that long ago in the grand scheme of things, but the fact is it's still so relevant, and I think that's what makes this book so powerful and so scary and so current. The fact that you can read this at any time and it will always be applicable. If I had done this at school, doing an essay about this book would have been so much fun. Because I'll admit, as an adult, I kind of miss writing essays, because I'm the kind of person that when I find out about something, I want to know everything. Like, if I'm really that interested in it, I want to find out everything. And so writing an essay about this book and doing comparisons and going back to the Russian Revolution and finding all that out and finding out the comparisons and the contrasting and everything, that would have been fascinating to me, just to get all that information and put it all together and write that essay. As an adult, I kind of miss the idea of finding something so interesting and then writing an essay about it. Some people say, well, why don't you just write an essay? And it's just like, because I've got other stuff to do. I mean, I could be writing an essay instead of making YouTube videos, but this is basically just the all version of what I would be doing, because I'm still researching stuff, and I'll probably obsess over this for a while, because after reading the end of the book and seeing the whole thing about the animals looking into the house, seeing the pigs meeting with the humans and realising, wait, this is everything that from the beginning we were told this shouldn't happen. And then as they look through the window, they realised that the pigs' faces are merging with the humans, and I just thought, I know there was at least one movie about this. How did they do this on screen? So I went to YouTube and Googled the films, just so that I went to YouTube and Googled the films. I went to YouTube and I put in a search bar, Animal Farm film. And both the films are on YouTube. Amazingly. Both the cartoon film and the 90s film are on YouTube. And so I just skipped to the parts clips of those films where that moment was happening to see how it was done, and when I was watching them I was just thinking, it's bloody terrifying. And it was so much more terrifying than the image I had in my mind when I read it. But yeah, can you tell I enjoyed this book? This is definitely up there in the classics for me as books that I can probably come back to. And I want to watch both of the movies. But I did see in the comments of, I think it was in the comments of the 90s film, where they talk about the moment when Old Major dies. Because in the book, he just dies of old age. But in the movie, apparently he essentially backflips out of the window. I didn't see the moment. I haven't brought myself to, because I just want to watch them all the way through properly. But the idea of Old Major backflipping through a window to die, and I'm just like, what? There's also the fact that in the, I think in the animated film it stays true to whose eyes you see it mainly through, but in the live action film they go to the point of view of a dog rather than the horse that originally we watch it through, and I think that's probably to do with logistics, where it's probably harder to follow the eyes of a horse in a live action film, because in the book the dogs are baddies. The dogs are in cahoots with the pigs. The pigs are like leading everything, but as I said, the dogs are essentially their bouncers. They're just like, you can't get to them unless you come through me. And so the idea of the live action being through the point of view of a dog, just, it feels almost wrong to do it that way. But I've seen lots of things where people actually appreciate seeing it through the eyes of a dog. I'll put that question out to anybody else who has read the book and seen the 90s film. How did you feel about the fact that for the 90s film they changed the point of view from the horse to the dog? It's a question for you if you want to let me know in the comments. Yeah. It's Animal Farm by George Orwell. Such a powerful book. As I said, it's 144 pages. I did this in practically a day. It's in fiction, comedy, satire and political fiction. And that is the front cover that I have on BorrowBox. Yeah. I am at work in less than an hour, so I'm going to go and sort out my dinner. I think I'm going to cook off some pasta for that. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Talk to me in the comments about this book, if you've seen the films, what you thought of them, if you think that the cartoon is appropriate for children, because I certainly don't think so. Just based on that small clip that I saw, and also the fact that it gets dark real quick. And I will see you next time with another video. Stay safe, love you all, bye!